and welcome back to part 2 of Final Fantasy 15. In today's part we're going to try and help Dave out with his hunt, and hopefully we won't die in the process. But first of all I want to show you that around camp are these crystals you can find of 3 energy types: fire, ice and electricity. These go into the energy sources I was telling you about in the first part, where if you collect enough of it, you can use it in Elemency to create your own magic spells. Yeah, you always have a limited amount, so that you can't make infinite fire or infinite ice or infinite electric. You get always limited to the amount, but you can mess with it and make alternate versions and make multi-casts or make healing casts, so like drains on the enemy, or experience casts so you get more experience of enemies when you use it, etc, etc. You can have a lot of experimental fun with it and mess with it, and they're always around campsites. So if you spot a campsite and you're low on energy or you want to try something, always circle them and you will find these energy crystals. They'll even light up on your map when you when you're nearby, so you can find them easily. And I didn't see this Dualhorn, but we're gonna go fight it now anyway because the battle indicator came on and we can't not. I'm heading the opposite way because there's treasure down here, and if I remember correctly, this is quite neat treasure. Like, if you see a treasure icon on the screen, more often than not, it's actually worth going for because the loot is pretty good. Even if it's something like as simple as a mega elixir, it's still a mega elixir, it's that sort of thing. And they're always worth going for, because it might even be stuff that you can't buy normally. The Dualhorns are one of the stronger enemies in the area for now, so be a bit more careful when you go into them and understand that they'll take a bit more of a beating than the average Joe. But because they're stronger, you can imagine that the experience you get from them is a lot better. Well, I say a lot better, somewhat better than others. And here it is, there's the line. I wondered how long it would be. Ignis's infamous line, Final Fantasy 15. If you know anything about Final Fantasy 15, you'll know that line, unfortunately. Every time you get enough ingredients, or are given a new recipe, or try a piece of food that is new to Ignis, he will comment on that he has a new recipe to show off with it, and he will say the same line every time. Actually, I say that, since then I think they've patched it so he's got a couple other lines, so it's not so bad, but more often than not he'll say, "That's it, I've come up with a new recipe," and you have to just put up with that. And we got a Mega Phoenix from that treasure, so that's brilliant. So we're going to head back and I'll cut until we're there, just to save you the trouble of all the travel. I thought I'll come back to recording just as we pass the camp, so you know where we started again. And the day's still young, it's only 8 AM. That's what that number means on the top. It means the actual hour of the time of day. Don't think it means anything else. Like, I know a few people did actually get a bit confused because the arrow doesn't point like very helpfully. Like, it will say 12 when it's not pointing up and some things like that. It's not accurate. It's more because it's more focused on looking at where the sun and moon position is than it is the actual like hour of the clock sort of thing. So you have to just be a bit more wary of that. But what is over here anyway? Gold dust. Alright, you can't pick up anything when you're in you're in the range of an enemy, like when the red line is. So if I'm right on the edge of it, if I could just position it right, I might be able to pick it up. And once again, I'm jumping instead of picking it up, even though the prompt is there. Come on, there we go. Right, now let's go see what was giving us all that trouble. If there's a warp point, I usually take it just so I can get a good view on what there is. And right now there's a bunch of saber tusks, so we can have some fun slaying them. I just noticed there was a bit of a hiccup on the recording there. Hopefully that might not have come through too bad, but I did just notice that it kind of jolted a bit. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. And I hope that's not a sign of things to come, because this is based off the PlayStation's inbuilt recording system, so if that's having hiccups and issues, that doesn't give me much hope for the rest of the experience. Now, I better say that, but it's done me well for everything up until now, so hopefully it can manage for a little longer. Oh, there's more. Oh, there's so much stuff around here. All right, let's clean up around here quickly and get more sidetracked. That sounds cool. Let's see what that is. It does more damage, and it's fire based by the looks of it. So I'm going to give that to Gladiolus, because great swords I always give to Gladiolus first, and the second best I'll give to Noctis. And saying I'm not using the Genji blade because you're not supposed to have it now, so I won't be until you are supposed to have it. Is there more stuff around here? Yeah, there is actually quite a bit more around here. You never know, we might get something else. Forgot, as Noctis jumps again. So if you want to turn that into a drinking game, when you're watching this, you want to play a drinking game, every single time I jump when I'm trying to interact with something, take a shot. See how far you get. Just pick any part alone, other than the Platinum demo, obviously. Just pick any part of the main Let's Play and turn it into a drinking game and see how many times I jump when I try and interact with something. Because I think you'll be pretty wasted by the end of it. Oh, but take a shot. Sweet potato. I think we've already brought them. So I always like to try and buy one of every ingredient in the shop, as I said before. So there's a chance I think I've already brought that one, so that's why there's no real comment or necessary thing with it. And I think that ingredient, I think that's behind the mountain, like the rocks. I was about to say mountain, but it's not really much of a mountain.
Feels so sluggish. Indeed.
When you're in the lead area, like which is this area here, like the crew will regularly mention the heat, and the only way to get them to really shut up about the heat is to get them to lose the jackets. There is an option for every single main clothing item, like stuff that's DLC or extras don't, but the main clothing items you get throughout the experience usually come with a no jacket variant. Alright, we can't roll onto that. I was about to try, but so if you and yet the no jacket variant does slightly alter stats, because that's another thing. Every costume ever so slightly alters certain stats. Some of the DLC costumes alter them quite a bit, but the ones in the main game, they're not too special, so don't worry about it too much. The only thing that's really worth noting is that you have extra health with the one we're currently wearing, the normal with jacket. If you lose the jacket, you lose that health bonus, and Prompto's health will go below 200 at this point. Which is a very hazardous amount of health to have. And if you're doing a level 1 run and you're feeling brave, go for it, lose the health bonus.
Yes, but not your
Right, the Dualhorn we fought earlier, it's a very similar thing coming up ahead that Dave was trying to hunt, but this one seems to be having a few issues and seems to be struggling and has gained a new form in the prospect and become a bit more demonized.
Wait a sec.
What? Scared, big guy?
You ought to be too. Thing's vicious.
You sure? Looks tame to me.
Yeah.
Look out!
This little cutscene's introducing the idea of techniques, I believe.
Ready for round 2? Bring it.
I'm waiting for the tutorial to pop up to say, yeah, that was the tutorial for techniques. You hold L1 and you press a button and it will do, depending on what you've set for that character. If you go through the ascension grid, you can get more for your character, so you can find your preference. The ones that all three of them start with are pretty handy. The only one I'd kind of recommend swapping off, as that's kind of handy later on, is Ignis. The one he's got, Mark, is very handy for getting a lot of strikes for a lot of enemies. But he has another one called Regroup that's just better. And I'm going to shut up because there's a little scene to play.
Hello?
Hey, Dave just called and said he's safe. Thanks for finding him.
Okay.
Nice work, y'all. By the way, the old girl's looking good as new. Oh, while I got ya, if y'all want to fix her up before you roll out, let me know.
Sounds good.
She'll be waiting at the garage.
Gotcha.
What that's referring to is that you can actually upgrade your vehicle. It's nothing too special, like you're not going to turn it into an ultimate death machine of badassery, but you can get it to go faster, tank more damage, have more fuel in it, etc, etc. You can get a lot of things like that.
Not sure I'd do any better.
If the Royal update, they added the ability later on when we get a new version of the Regalia that I won't spoil just in case you somehow don't know. There will be tracks and racetracks you can do, and if you do those, you can get ones where if you ram enemies with it, it will do more damage to them. And that's kind of nice, but other than that, it's not really too special. Which is a shame, really, because they could have really experimented with it and done a lot with it, but what we have in the game is kind of lackluster compared to what they could have done. Who knows, maybe if the inevitable Final Fantasy 16, they'll take that in, and if they give you a vehicle of some kind in that one as well, make it better and give us the ability to use more with it. Because I can't help but feel that whenever 16 rolls around, it will have a lot more purpose and focus than this. Because unfortunately, as much as I enjoy this game, and as much as it usually knows what it wants to do, there's a lot of elements of its old soul in place, where it was originally called Final Fantasy Versus 13, where the whole point of it was just to be the complete opposite of anything ever tackled in a Final Fantasy game, hence Versus.
You better apologize.
And while we're here, we're going to get stopped by Prompto to see this creature, known by as Zoo, as in Z-U.
That thing's like half bird, half storm, half airship.
You realize that's 3 halves. Explain its size.
This ginormous bird that is kind of the king of the area. There is a point much later in the game where you have the option to tackle it if you please, but we won't be taking it anytime soon. Because the hunting system I was on about earlier, which will start, I think, just after when we get back to this quest, I think I'll start one to show it off. One of the hunts is to get that bird and to take it down. There's a few like that. Some of the hunts are hiding some of the game's super bosses, which I don't mind. Like, there's a part of me that kind of wishes they were just a part of the world and you could go tackle them when you please, but I don't mind them being a part of the hunt system.
Stinking hot.
And once again, they're mentioning the heat because I've got the jackets on. If they keep on going on, I start to get annoyed with it. Maybe I'll take the jackets off. We'll see. But it. And the reason why I'm leaning over to the right here, because I want to test a personal theory of mine, or not theory, curiosity, shall I say? Because there was something I noticed not that long ago on my main account, and I want to see if it's here now. Because on my main account, I've obviously beat the game, and I'm in the post game, and I just decided at random, fuck it, I'm going to climb this rock. And to my surprise, when I got to the top of it, there was a Mega Elixir, a really amazing item that's a mainstay to and yeah, it is here. That's worth noting then. When you start Hammerhead, look for the rock immediately opposite you, climb to the top, there's a Mega Elixir, one of the most helpful items in the franchise. It fully restores all HP and MP to your entire party in one use. In the earlier Final Fantasy games, they'd only ever give you one, and that was it. But because this is 15, and it's stupidly fucking generous with a lot of these items, there are several we can find throughout the game. But that's the earliest you can get one, and that's pretty cool to have such a powerful item this early on if you want it. And Prompto here, now you finished the quest, we've got our car back, comes up with a neat idea. Why not take a picture of it all together? And this is the one I think almost every person who plays the game ends up with this photo. But so don't think, because there's a lot of photos you'll get throughout the game that'll be very unique to you, but there's a few that are kind of set in stone. So you'll always get that, I believe. And Cindy will bring up something here, and I don't know if you have to accept it, but I always do anyway. But she'll ask you to make a delivery on your way to Golden Key, like where we need to head next to hop on that boat. And you get 50 experience points on the straight away for accepting and not declining. That's the thing that I've mentioned it before, that if you say the right things in conversations, you'll get bonuses like that. And it's a consistent thing without the entire game, which I actually quite like, that if you say the right thing, they give you something for it. Ignis is going to bring up the whole, hey, do you want to take it for a test drive? But I'm actually going to say no, because if you take it for a test drive, it's kind of a waste of time if you don't get the travel far before Noctis kind of breaks the car down and it fails it, and Ignis says, okay, I'll just take over for now anyway. Like, I don't feel it's really worth showing off, so I'd rather just leave it for now, and then later on when we get actual access to it, I'll show off how the driving works then. For now, the car is locked to the road, so don't try and take it off-road and drive wherever the hell you want. But it's still a very fast option of getting around compared to running everywhere if you so choose. I didn't check the shop on my first visit, but I'm going to check it now I've actually got some gil under my name. They're selling elixirs and high elixirs, and for quite cheap as well. That's another thing I'm going to mention about how generous this is. In the classics, you couldn't buy high elixirs, and actual elixirs you could only usually find in endgame shops, and they were 500,000 gil. You were not supposed to have that many. You were supposed to be, you were heavily encouraged to just go out and find them, never buy them. And even like antidotes, like to cure poison, was 100 gil, and now they're 10 in this. Like, ugh. they're extremely generous with healing items in this game, and unfortunately it ends up affecting the entire difficulty as a whole. There is nothing stopping you from just grinding for money, buying a mountain ton of Phoenix Downs, and burning through most of the game with little trouble.
That's it.
Oh, there it is!
I've come up with a new recipe.
I wonder how many times we can get him to say it this part. I won't turn that into a drinking game as well, because I don't think he'll say it as often as to fail to jump, especially later in the game, but whatever. Survival tips. Ugh. Yeah, is that what it says? It's survival tips. Okay, what are the survival tips? Survival? Yeah, okay. Another thing added with the Royal Edition that's worth noting, and I clicked on it as we re-entered Hammerhead, but I forgot to mention it. You might see something where it's like a little golden book symbol. That adds to something new called the data log, where it's just, it keeps track of everything you've read around the world. It's just mostly for world building, just telling you about the area, how things came to be, yada yada yada. But I want to maintain my 100% trophy completion in this game, and right now the only 2 trophies I'm missing are get all the Royal Arms in the multiplayer expansion, which I'll cover in a separate video when it's relevant, which won't be for a very long time, but when it's relevant I'll cover it properly. And the last one is get 80% of the data log, so it's quite handy I'm doing this, because who knows, I might actually find them all as we go along, and I'll buy this as we go.
I dare say I could make this
Hey, he said a different line other than as usual. That's one of the lines that was added in a later update. But just keep in mind, at launch he would have said the same line he said twice already. Again there. It's only 2 in the afternoon, we've still got time. What I'm gonna do actually, I think, the hunt's nearby, I'm gonna go do that and show it off. It's very simple. Essentially, you head over to the marker where it's listed, and there will be however many enemies. In this case, it's 7 saber tusks. You kill them, you take it back to wherever you got the hunts from, and you'll be rewarded for it. It's as simple as that. It's really not that complicated. Which is another thing which, I don't mind it, but it's another thing I kind of had a problem with. Like, I felt they could have done so much more with this idea. Like, really expand it, turn it into like an alternate quest. Like, make side quests be its own thing, but make hunts a more aggressive based side quest where you have to do like a selection of things together before you can eventually go and take down the enemy you need to. Or like go find clues of where they are, or I guess it's because Monster Hunter, like the Monster Hunter series showed how to do hunts properly, that I kind of hope a bit more for it. That being said, I've still yet to play Monster Hunter World, but I'll get around to it eventually. It's on the bucket list. But I just feel like they could have done more with it than they actually did. Because there's only one hunt in the entire game where they actually do a bit more with it. And that's one we don't even have access to until much later in the game. And it's a super boss that I will be showing off, and I'll, if I remember, mention it when we get to it. But that's a long way away, because I'll be doing it post-game. Anyway, there's a few small resources in the area, but I don't think there's anything special, so I think I'm going to take this opportunity and head to the caravan.
Come with us, Noct.
And what I mean the caravan, after we bank in the hunt, is that you don't just have to camp at a campsite. There are also other areas such as hotel rooms or camps, or not campsites. I meant to say that again. Blah blah blah. But we've got a high elixir for that. That's ridiculous. Anyway, you can also rest at things like caravans and hotel rooms, etc., etc. Doing so, you won't get a food-based bonus, but you'll get other kind of bonuses. And the only reason I'm eating this is just on the off chance that Ignis will make a recipe out of it. I don't know if he will, but he might do. Because it's going to be wasted anyway, because we're about to go have food. Not go have food, go camp at tent. Got my words today.
Had your fill? Good.
Thank you. As it starts to approach evening, I'll show you what I mean. This caravan right here. The main bonus with it, although you can't have food, if I was like twice, there we go. As it'll show up here, the better the lodge you can find, the better experience multiplier you get. Caravans are times 1.2, hotel rooms are times 1.5. There's a special area in Golden Key, when we get to it, that's 2.0, but that's 10,000 gil, so don't think about it. And there's one much later in the game that you can get 3 times, but that's 30,000 gil. But that's what, if you're grinding to level 99 or the new cap 120, that's probably where you'll be going after you get loads of experience, going to that area to get the 3 times experience boost, as we get our opening cutscene to a caravan-based trip. As Noctis gets pulled away from Gladio to do whatever they're doing, whilst Prompto highlights to Ignis that they do have a cooking oven here. But unfortunately, even though you can see Ignis has gone to a cooking oven, he's not going to make anything from it. You don't make meals from it. It's going to go straight to this, where they're sitting around and we tally up our experience. I don't think we'll hit levels. No, we won't. And Prompto got to level 2, so he'll get a new filter. Every time Prompto takes a picture, he'll get a bit of experience for that skill. Right, I'll save that one because that's quite a nice one.
Isn't what?
Carbuncle, our friendly companion, is in the picture, but only Noctis can see him.
Perfect timing.
That's not perfect timing, that's kind of meh. I was picking up loot, I was running around. That's supposed to, I can see it, if you look right at the very top of that one, you could see that's where the zoo was, and it was supposed to be the picture of it, but we didn't get any proper ones. That one I'll keep because that's the one that everyone gets.
The Regalia's good side.
That one's not too bad. I don't know. So I want to try and take a mixture of like different ones just to have a proper collection to look back on when we reach the end. But I'm going to call that apart. So next time on Final Fantasy 15, we're going to hop in the Regalia and finally start heading south, helping out Cindy with her little quest along the way as we head towards Golden Key. But until then, you take care now.
It.
What's what?
I've come up with a new recipe.
I could taste test for you.
I've come up with a new recipe.
I've come up with a new recipe.